What is up, chefs, foodies, and students? Welcome to Everybody Knows. I'm Anders. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today we are talking about how we explore and experiment with food aromas, specifically pairing and blending food aromas. When people want to find new, fun combinations of flavors, it can sometimes feel daunting as to where to begin. Here are a few guiding questions to help. A first good question is, what's in season? Finding a farmer or a gardening organization and picking their brains about what's coming out of the ground right now or what's ripe could be a really good place to start. Second question is, what's local? So finding a local market or grower and see what they specialize in could give you some really good ingredients to work with. Another good question is, what do you have an abundance of? This could be either general ingredients or unused portions. Sometimes the stuff that we're throwing away can be used to make a whole new awesome food. Another question is, what haven't you seen used before? Is there evidence of why something hasn't been used? Do some research. Coffee kombucha is a really good example. I'll let you figure that one out. A good last question on this list is maybe more for the business owners, but do people want something specific from you? And that just comes to knowing your market really well and asking them what they're interested in. Hopefully those questions help you start to think about where to begin with a flavor combination, even if it's just one main ingredient to start with. So now let's say you have your ingredient or maybe a couple. What does the process look like to develop that fully? Well, here is a possible process that you could take to arrive at a solid new aroma pairing or combination. And for the purposes of this process, I'm keeping it vague so that chefs or food producers or product producers of a wide variety could also use this process. Start with your first ingredient. Give it a really good smell. Smell it again. What things do you notice? This would be a really good opportunity to look at an aroma wheel like this one and think about which aromas jump out at you or how you would describe the aromas that you're smelling with this first smell. For example, if you had rosemary, you would be noticing some brightness, maybe pininess or woodiness, or maybe even something like buttery. Based on what you perceive, the most successful blends of aromas tend to favor either high contrast or high similarity in the traits of their aromas. This can be from the aroma itself, but also its strength or its shape. If you have an herb, it might pair nicely with several other herbs or spices, which are all stronger or sharper aromas. However, it would also likely pair well with some of the broader, more mellow aromas like a potato or mushrooms. 2 or 3 aromas is a fine place to arrive, depending on what you want. If you want to let the ingredients shine and speak for themselves, 2 or 3 ingredients will likely be enough to base a flavor combination around. If you want more complexity or excitement, then you might go further or with more components that have multiple ingredients. It's totally up to you. One side note of this point in the process, research never hurts. Google, AI, and recipes can give you all kinds of ideas. There is one tool that I come back to all the time that I have to recommend, and it's the Flavor Bible. And that's just the name of the book. But the Flavor Bible is essentially a encyclopedia. It's an encyclopedia of different flavors. So for example, lamb. And when we look up lamb, we see all of these other ingredients that it lists as pairing well with lamb, which also shows if it's in bold or if it's large, then it pairs really well with lamb. It will also give you small groups of flavor affinities, and it will show you some popularized dishes from some of the noteworthy restaurants in the world. I use this book all the time to look up what is known before I continue further. So continuing with our example, I'm thinking about putting rosemary with chicken, since chicken is a nice, rich, mellow flavor, and I want to add some fruit, so maybe I'll do like an apple compote as a sauce on top. But I also want some depth, so maybe I roast or I grill those apples first. maybe with some honey on them. Now we're getting somewhere. Once you've thought of a few possible combinations, gather some ingredients and smell some things side by side, like literally get them in front of you, start smelling them. And if it makes sense, eat some of them together and continue on some testing. Make the dish or product as faithfully as possible to the way that you want the finished product. What I mean by this is that the strongest experiments have the fewest variables, so think through your processes, your materials, keeping as much as you can the same as your eventual finished product and the process that you'll use to create it. And then test it on some people. Get that taste test feedback happening with free samples and testers who won't spare your feelings. Hell, send me a sample, I'll give you feedback. Last but not least, and this brings this process into a circular shape, allow your product to change if it needs to. Don't be afraid. Don't let it break your heart. Don't take it personally. If the first wave or two of your product is all feedback on how it needs to change, that will get you to a total win for versions 2 through 42. Let's have a quick look at our aroma wheel. So looking at the wheel is helpful in order to see which aromas are similar and which are not. Generally speaking, those aromas that are nearby each other are similar, and those that are far apart are not. To our previous point, strong aroma blends generally either have some similarities between the ingredients or some big differences between them. I mentioned this example in another video, but I want to show you an example which is caprese salad. If we map it out on the wheel, we can see that the main aromas are pretty spread out. The basil, greens, tomato, mozzarella, and some balsamic vinegar all have some healthy space between them. Conversely, in another example, if you think about how many fruits tend to get blended into combinations, especially berries, that works. And they're very similar. So the similarity direction can be as successful as the contrast direction. And that about wraps it up. Here's what I want you to do. Think about the process that we just covered and using the aroma wheel as a bit of a map. Did my thinking or logic make sense to you? Why or why not? And what ideas or questions do you have? I love your feedback, so any of the answers to those questions, throw them down in the comments. I would love to read them. I hope this video made sense and got you thinking about these ideas and the universal aroma wheel. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to join the food aroma nerdery, feel free to subscribe and you'll see all my latest vids. If you would like a hard copy poster version or a digital copy of our aroma wheel, there will be links in the description. Thanks so much. Bye.